All right, everybody, welcome to another On Second Thought review series review. We're going to discuss Hatchet 3, which came out in 2013. I remember actually finding out about this one before it came out. Hatchet 2 came out of nowhere, but I was looking forward to this one. I saw the trailer, I saw the release date, I was counting the days, and I had a girlfriend at the time who told me that I had to wait like days after the release for her to watch it with me. She wanted to watch it with me, and I never spoke to her again. I said, fuck that. I'm watching it when it drops at midnight, and that's what I did. So, I like this one. This is my favorite sequel. I would put it at number 2. Where would you put it? I really like the look of this one and the look of Victor Crowley in this one. It's my favorite look next to part 1. Yes, part 1 looks more rubbery, but just the way they light him and when he first charges out, I just love that look. I don't know, maybe it's nostalgia. This one definitely looks better, technically, but I always seem to think that part 1 is creepier looking. But yeah, this one it looks perfect. He's always got blood all over him. He's just drenched in blood the entire time. But yeah, let's get into this movie. Spoiler discussion. Let's get into it. So this movie, just like part 2, opens up the same shot, and how the second one ended. It opens up right from that shot with Marybeth shooting Victor Crowley right in the head, and right off the bat you can tell this was made by a different director. This is B.J. McDonnell. This is not Adam Green no more. He handed the torch, or in this movie's case, he handed the hatchet to B.J. McDonnell to direct, and it's like on a wide angle, so it looks different. The color palette, it looks way better. Like, this movie just looks the best out of the 4 to me. So that's another thing that really amplifies it. And the body count is even higher. There's almost like 20 kills in the second one. There's well over 20. And a lot of them are off camera, if you think about it. There's a whole crew that we didn't get to see die. So probably like 30 people die in this movie. So we get the shot of Victor Crowley doing like a Michael Myers sit-up in the background, which is cool. Creepy shot. And I like that this movie was shot on location. That's different from the first two. Especially part 2. I know that one was shot like on a soundstage. And because they were shooting on location behind the scenes, everybody was getting eat up by mosquitoes and getting sick. And this is the best opening of the 4 movies. It's so bloody. It's so over the top. Buckets and buckets of blood. She fists his face and then pushes him down that 6-foot chainsaw, and he gets chopped in half. The practical effects of this opening, amazing. What a kick-ass open. It's so bloody. It's fantastic. Just sawed in half, and the intestine just hanging out of there, grabs his scalp and walks to the police station, because why not? Why not turn yourself in? That's so dumb. I don't get that reasoning. Like, was she turning herself in? Was she expecting a trophy? Like, look, I got the scalp. Crown me. What was she expecting? Like, because of her actions, she got like 30 more people killed. She could have just went straight home, and it would have been over. Like, sure, Victor Crowley would technically still be out there, but none of these people would have had to perish because of her. So, way to go, Marybeth. Way to go. So, yeah, she goes to the station. We see Sarah Albert once again as a cameo, and we got Zach Galligan, and holy shit, the horror alumni in this movie is unbelievable. And I don't know where to start. Let's just go through it. We get B.J. McDonnell and Adam Green as cameos in the prison cell, and we get like a inside joke. Like, if you don't know who Adam Green is, this joke wouldn't work for you, but Zach Galligan, he's like doing like a story recap of 1 and 2. And he's like, that's the stupidest story I've ever fucking heard. And then Adam Green looks at the camera like, what? How dare you? And then we see a shot of like these paramedics at the swamp, and there's a body on the ground that's completely skinned. It doesn't look like Reverend Zombie's body. Who is that? The guy who's like puking because he sees like that corpse. Who is that? I don't know who the fuck that is. And then Perry Shin comes back. He's the face of this franchise. And this time he doesn't die, which is cool. He comes back in part 4, writes a book and whatnot. So, yeah, he's the face of this franchise. And it's just funny that it's like a reoccurring thing. Like, his character, no matter how many times he dies, like, he's like Kenny, except it's technically not the same character, but the actor keeps coming back. And then Sean Whalen, the guy who's in tons of horror movies, finds the body from part 1, and he's like, hey, he kind of looks like you. He's like, oh, because we all look alike, right? It's hilarious. More good humor. This movie has great humor. It's probably the third funniest. I think Hatchet 1's the funniest, and then Victor Crowley, and then this one. The humor is okay in part 2, but this one's the third funniest. And this one is like, this whole movie is like a third act of a film. It's just very action packed. There's a lot more guns going off. There's even like a Predator scene, like straight out of Predator, where they're like unloading their weapons into the forest. They don't even know what the hell's out there. And then when they go to investigate what they did, they just find like a dead raccoon. I was wondering on this video, like, do they really know if that's Victor? Like, Andrew's character, he's like a believer, and he finds the body chopped in half. He drags along with some other guy Victor's body. He's like, I think you need to look at this one. So I think he is aware of who that's Victor Crowley, although he's technically never seen him. But he's like, I think this is him. So he's like all excited, but he won't be for long. If you read the book, actually, the book in part 4, there's an actual copy that you can read, and he describes in detail everything that happened while he was hiding. And he describes one awesome death that would have been probably too cartoony or too over the top. And it's like Victor Crowley charges at a guy and hits him so hard that the guy explodes. So I'm not sure if he was making that up in the book, but that's an awesome kill. I would have loved to see that kill in this movie. That would have been fucking awesome. So we find out by Caroline Williams, there's another horror alumni, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. She's the journalist, the local Victor Crowley expert, and she says that Victor Crowley is a repeater, and that's why he keeps coming back, and that's why he got his hair back in part 2, so that explains that, and now he's back in full form once again, with a sharper chin. And so yeah, like I said, this is the best look of Victor Crowley to me. It's my favorite. And he has a grizzly bear growl. In part 2, he sounded like some kind of tiger, jaguar, some kind of animal. But in this one, it's like a grizzly bear. Freeze! Don't move! So yeah, we see that shot of like his body like rebuilding itself in the bag in the background, which is a cool shot. And then I guess he knows how to use those handles. Like those things make noises when you turn them on. So how he like turned it on and it was already like, you know, ready to go. It shocks his head, whatever. But I just think it's funny that Victor Crowley knows how to use those shock paddles. And he hits him right in the head so hard that his brains pop out. Cool kill. Like I said, every single kill in this movie is just like fucking awesome. Very creative. There's a few lame ones, but I'll get to that later. So yeah, chops the guy in half. He chops his head in half, falls open, brain falls out, which is unrealistic, but awesome still. And then we get a death montage, just like in part 2, where person's head gets smashed up against a tree, intestines being ripped out, arms ripped off. And then we meet Derek Mears. They all go to the swamp to investigate what the hell is going on. And Derek Mears, such a badass. And we got Schneiderman, who was in part 2 as the pig mask wearing guy, and he is hilarious. And his name in this movie is Schneiderman, so they didn't change his name or anything. And why is Marybeth handcuffed throughout this whole movie? That's another negative with this film. It's just like, one, it's dumb that she went to the police station, but 2, now her character does nothing the entire movie until like the last 5 minutes when she kills Victor Crowley. She's just constantly a moody bitch the whole movie, and I understand why, but it doesn't make her character fun. You're just like kind of miserable every time she's on screen. It's like, oh my gosh, shut up. She's just always yelling. She spits in that guy's face, and she's always handcuffed, even when people are being murdered on the radio and they hear the distress call. They know it can't be her, but they want to act like maybe she's an accessory. It's just bullshit. Like, and then like they need her help to go kill Victor Crowley. She's the chosen one. She has to do it herself. Why is she still handcuffed? Like, I get maybe when she's in the back of the car, but when she's at the swamp, when they drag her there and they give her the urn of the ashes of Thomas Crowley, why would you want her at such a disadvantage against Victor Crowley? Like, she's already at a disadvantage. Now she's even more, like tenfold in a disadvantage because she's handcuffed. It's like, take the cuffs off of her. Winslow, fucking dumbass. And then, so yeah, we find out that they need the ashes to kill Victor Crowley because he's looking for his daddy. So I like that, inserted lore in here. It makes sense that that's how you would kill him. And then we get more horror alumni. Sid Haig, he's the great nephew of Thomas Crowley. He's got the ashes and he's like racist and he's just a hilarious character. He's like, who'd you steal that badge from? And then we got testicles hanging from the tree. So I guess after the mute guy in Colton got chainsawed in half, that means Victor Crowley grabbed their balls and then like hung them like tree ornaments. That's just funny.
This whole thing could be some sort of a joke. A sick, perverse, practical fucking joke.
We got, of course, the big ego guy, Derek Mears. He's got a huge ego. He doesn't want to look like a fool. I can do this myself. I can handle it. Gets them all killed. So he's a character that you roll your eyes at like, oh my gosh, really? You're going to be that guy? Stupid. And Schneiderman, why is he even there? Like, how did he get that bazooka? You're telling me that police station in some, town down south has a fucking bazooka in their arsenal? Really? Is that what cops carry around? I don't think so. But he's got it, and he's in the forest, the swamp, despite the fact that he's a firm believer of Victor Crowley and that he knows he's out there. Why did he go? Was he forced there? Like, he's already threatening to quit his job. Like, fuck it, I'm leaving. Fire my ass. Why didn't you already have that attitude at the beginning of the day? Like, fuck, fire my ass. I'm not showing up. So that's a little, like, logic issue I have. Like, well, if his character was already that scared shitless when he arrived, why did he go? I would have just stayed home if I was a firm believer like he is. And then, like, there's this scene where they gather around, they're, like, looking around, and then, like, those two cops, they stand right in front of the doorway where Victor Crowley's standing. Why? Why are they, they're, like, posting there like they're guards for the house. Makes no sense. Why are you... They would go inside and investigate, but instead they just post out front with their backs to the hole. It's like, what? Who does that? But then you get that cool shot, like him emerging into the light out of the darkness, stabs the guy with some knife on a string, gets the other chick, drags her in, and then they just unload. And then they get all mutilated and massacred in like a minute. He just takes them all out. It's just hatchet, hatchet, hatchet. Like, this is the most he's ever used this hatchet. He only used it once in the first one, used it a couple times in the second one, but he's hacking them left and right. Just knocks the guy on the ground, lifts him up, roaring, rips him in half, awesome kill, chops the head off, chops the leg off, hits the guy in the balls, and then curb stomps the guy, like stomps his head into mush, which we get to see again in part 4, Victor Crowley. So yeah, and then we get like a little Reverend Zombie moment, just like at the end of part 2. Derek Mears is like, I got this, throws away his gun, and he's like, I'm gonna remove his head. It's like, no, you're not that strong. Let's do this, you little bitch. And then he basically gets a Predator kill, which is just fitting because Derek Mears played the Predator in Predators. So he gets his spine and skull ripped out like a Predator victim. Mortal Kombat kill, really. And he's just roaring, holding on to it. And then this is like the most funny, most hilarious scene where Victor Crowley's like trying to like bust that guy's head in on that post, and then Schneiderman gets his bazooka out, and he's got this like, he's just like ranting like, I'll show you fucking daddy. You want your daddy? I'll show you daddy. Sorry, Rick. He gets the bazooka out, shoots the guy, and misses. He misses Victor Crowley and just blows up the other guy. It's just freaking hysterical. And he blows up his house. That's a no-no. Victor Crowley is pissed off. And I like that, how poetic it is. Like, you took down his house, so now he's going to take you down with a piece of that house, like a little burning log that was part of his house, and he throws that out and hits him in the back. So it's kind of like karma setting in. And this is the most drawn out, next to the hatchet kill in part 2, where he's just constantly getting his head bashed in 30 times. This is like drawn out torture, like one arm at a time, left arm, right arm, blood spewing out, and then drowns him. So he's drowning with a hole in his back and 2 missing arms. Fantastic. That is brutal. But he deserved it because he took out his house. And I don't think the house rebuilds and respawns. I don't think the house is a repeater. Only Victor Crowley is, so it's not like he's going to get his house back the next day. And I talked about in part 2, like, does his memory reset? Because he doesn't ever recognize Marybeth. We don't really get that, So it's like, if he responds the next day, is he going to be like, where's my house? Where'd it go? It was here today. I mean, how's his memory work? I mean, I know that's overanalyzing, but whatever. So I have to bring it up. So we get the daddy call once again. Daddy. Oh, and that raccoon that they shoot, I never thought about it before, but is that the same raccoon in part 1 when Marcus is like looking in the bush and then, Victor pops up with the sander to take out Julie's character? Is that the same raccoon? I wonder. I have to wonder. That'd be freaking hysterical if it was. So yeah, I wish that the fight between Jason and Jason, really, Derek Mears and Kane Hodder, would have been longer, kind of like, Jason and Leatherface at the end of part 2, but they decided to go with the quick death, like, he's so awesome and tough that not even Derek Mears stands a chance. I get it, but it's kind of a letdown, like, oh, really, Jason versus new Jason? That would have been awesome. We get Adam Green's wife at the time. She's one of the SWAT girls, the new chick, Dorothy is her name. And she is an idiot. When they get in that ambulance boat, there's a hole in the wall, and then there's like a gun in the ground. And despite how many times they've shot the fucker, she's like, I need the gun. It's like, for what? Like, to make yourself feel safer? Like, it's so stupid. It's such a dumb decision. And then we get Ben from part 1 back. He's in that same boat that he died in part 1. Awesome. Fuck, that's the best callback, the best, like, cameo in the whole series.
You gotta be fucking kidding me.
And the guy gets eaten by an alligator. So this is the only death in the franchise, I believe, that's done not by Victor Crowley. And that was the DP, director of photography, Barrett. He's had cameos before. He was like walking down the street in part 2, looking at Marybeth. And then we get like the Thing shot where he's like in the spotlight behind him, like it's like backlit. It's a cool shot. And like the poster, he looks like the poster of the Thing. Zach Galligan, he gets his head sandered off. He gets another belt sander kill, and his head just gets torn off basically all the way down to the chin, and blood's just spraying out. He's like a chicken with his head cut off. He's like wailing his arms around. Kind of reminds me of the guy in Jeepers Creepers 2 when he gets his head cleanly eaten off and he's just like swinging his arms around. It's so over the top. And how can Victor Crowley not get in that boat? Like, he's so tough. He can rip you like your insides out and whatnot. He can do all this shit that we've seen. You name it. He can do anything, but he can't get inside that boat. Really? He can't punch that window out? He can't barge in just once? I mean, if he really did what Andrew Young says in that book, busting into a guy and making him explode, he could easily get inside that ambulance boat, but obviously not. So maybe that was bullshit in his book. I like the lie that Zach Galligan says on the CB radio. He's like, there's crazy gunmen. It's a smart lie, because you shouldn't say like a local legend's attacking us, because they're not going to respond. So yeah, and then the girlfriend, or the wife of Adam Green at the time, she goes for the gun, idiot, gets pulled through the hole, and like the metal frame of it, it's so sharp it like skins her body as she leaves. Creative kill. And it looks gnarly. We get like an aftermath shot. Mwah! Fantastic. Caroline Williams is at the swamp too, and then we see Victor Crowley goes up to her and rips her fucking head off slowly, all the tendons hanging in there. Awesome. And then he like grabs Winslow and like just tears the skin off of his chest. Like, it would have been cool if he got like the chest, like the ribs open too, if we got to see like ribs poking out or something. But he just tears the skin off his chest, kind of like that victim in Silent Hill. Kind of reminds me of that, where that big ass demon monster just rips the skin off that woman, grabs it off the chest. We get like a similar kill here, and pushes Marybeth up against a tree, and then he goes to pick up a machete. Where did that machete come from? But it's just like a little wink, like, he's Kane Hodder. He used Jason. He uses a machete. So he's like going to get the machete, but then he gets robbed of that experience. Like he doesn't get to use it because Marybeth, here's daddy, motherfucker, smashes the ashes on his head and he starts to melt. And even these practical effects are fantastic. Maybe there's a little CGI in there, I don't know, I couldn't tell, but it looks good. And then he just gets reduced to nothing but like his skeleton and then blasts him away. We get like blue fire for some reason. Maybe it's because he's a ghost. But yeah, he is dead. No more. So, yeah, that's how this movie ends. And it's like left open for like, is she dead? Is she not? Adam Green said that she was dead. Like in his mind at that time, she was dead. But then in part 4, he decided to bring her back. So, as a cameo. And then hopefully we'll get her, Danielle Harris back in part 5 and 6 or whatever, how many more movies they make. So yeah, that's the end of Hatchet 3. Now let's go into my award ceremony. The Funny Bone Award for funniest moment in this movie is Schneiderman when he gets the bazooka and he's like, "Sorry, Rick," and shoots the wrong guy. And the hottest chick in this movie to me is Marybeth. We get to actually see her naked in the shower at the beginning, which is nice. And the best character for me in this movie, the one that made me laugh, is Schneiderman. Hysterical, he's the Marcus of this movie, he's the Colton, he's the comic relief, and he made me laugh out loud. And the worst character in this movie, the one you hate because of his decisions, is Hawes, played by Derek Mears. He's the one that really gets them killed. They should have just left, but he said no. And the best shot in this movie is Victor Crowley in front of his burning house, and then when he turns around and stares at the destruction. Love that scene. And the best scene in this movie for me is the SWAT team massacre when he just goes to town, hacking them all up to pieces. It's fucking fantastic. The best kill in this movie will go to Schneiderman, just because of how brutal it is. It's my favorite character, and I just love it. And the worst kill in this one is that one SWAT guy who just gets hit in the balls with the hatchet. Those are my thoughts on Hatchet 3. What did you think about this movie? Put your thoughts up in the comments below. Where do you stack this in your ranking? This is your favorite sequel. It's mine. And thank you so much for joining me tonight. If you like what you've seen here, you can hit this like button and share with all your friends. Become a Patreon for as little as $1 a month. And you could become a subscriber if you haven't done so already, just by clicking on my cartoon face in about 5 seconds. And until next time, auf Wiedersehen.